Is finding your dream career feeling impossible right now? You're not alone. Welcome to Career Blueprint, the podcast that helps you figure out your next career move. We explore the trends in tech shaking up the job market, giving you the unfiltered advice you need, whether you're starting out, changing direction, or guiding someone else. Let's figure out what's next for you together. This is Career Blueprint. So we're changing things up a bit today. For the last few episodes, we've been doing a deep dive into how AI is changing specific professions and industries. Now, we'll get back to that, but today's episode is for listeners who just want the bottom line. You don't want any history or explanations of what AI is or how it works. You just want to know, is my job going to be impacted by AI? And what jobs are safe from AI? Now, if you're looking for a top 10 list kind of response on which jobs are going away and which jobs are safe, I'll give you links to some of those lists answering both those questions in the comment section on social media. But I recommend you stick with me for just a few minutes while I give you a cheat sheet that will help you figure out much more precisely when AI is going to show up in your workplace. And the reason I recommend you use the cheat sheet instead of just looking at a list that's out there and published is that there's already a bunch of lists and articles out there claiming to predict which jobs are going to be replaced by AI and which jobs are safe. But these lists really aren't that helpful if you're looking to make a career decision. We're at such an early stage of AI adoption that the lists are pretty generic. They'll say things like, AI is going to replace all jobs in law, accounting, and consulting. But that's just not accurate. It assumes that people in those fields all do the same thing and that their job responsibilities are fairly basic. It doesn't consider how different and nuanced responsibilities can be between jobs within the same profession. Let me give you an example. There are dozens of jobs you can do with a law degree. Dozens. You can be a judge, a prosecutor, a litigator, a compliance officer, an arbitrator, a mediator. The list goes on and on and on. And each of these jobs is very different. They all require legal training, but their day-to-day work, it's just not the same. So saying AI is going to eliminate or replace all legal jobs, it's just not accurate, and more importantly for you, it's not helpful. So instead, I'm going to give you a cheat sheet that will help you know whether your specific job is safe from AI for now, and if it's not, if your job is exposed to AI, we're going to talk about how you can predict when AI will start showing up in your workplace. So my cheat sheet. To predict how your job will be impacted by artificial intelligence, you have to consider 4 things. 1, do you work with computers? 2, what tasks do you do every day, and how often do you repeat those tasks? 3, do you interact with other people at work, or do you spend most of your day by yourself? And 4, what industry do you work in, and who's your employer? So let's talk a little bit about each of these 4 things. The first predictor of whether your job is exposed to AI is pretty simple. Do you work with a computer? The majority of jobs that are vulnerable to AI involve computer work of some type. This makes sense, right? AI is a form of computer software, so it makes sense that jobs that regularly use computers are more vulnerable to AI replacement. This is why AI is called a white-collar jobs threat. Now, these days, everybody uses a computer in some way in their job. If you're a massage therapist or a hairstylist, you need a computer for scheduling appointments, right? Or if you're an electrician or a plumber or a veterinarian, you probably use your computer for bookkeeping and scheduling. But in all of those jobs, you can do the fundamental work without a computer. And that's the test. If you do not have to use a computer to perform your core daily job tasks, then your job is probably safe from AI for now. And the reason why is that AI by itself can't do your job. AI is a software program. It doesn't have arms and legs. It has to be paired with a robot that can do physical tasks. Now, people are blending robotics and AI, but they're different. Robotics and AI are complementary technologies that can work together, but they're not the same thing. And innovation in each area is happening at a different pace. Currently, robot technology lacks the advanced abilities needed for many hands-on jobs. While experts are very optimistic about the possibilities that exist as AI is being combined with robotics, the technology itself is still limited. Today's robots excel at simple, repetitive tasks in structured settings. So this is why robots are making headway in jobs like warehouse stocking, car assembly, harvesting agricultural crops. But robots still have trouble with tasks requiring fine motor skills and decision-making. Now, right now, there's a lot of investment in developing robot functionality. But even when robots eventually develop the manual dexterity needed to do hands-on jobs, and they're paired with AI to help with the decision-making, there is a big trust barrier that robots will have to overcome before humans are ready to accept them in their daily lives. Would you let a robot cut your hair or maybe care for your child? Probably not. So, if your job's main tasks aren't computer-based, your job is unlikely to be significantly impacted by AI anytime soon. You can expect to see robots continue to make advances in jobs like warehouse stocking and manufacturing assembly, but it's going to take a while before robots are ready for roles that require any kind of decision-making and roles that work in unpredictable job environments and that require fine manual dexterity. That's why jobs in the skilled trades and personal care fields are seen as safe from AI right now. So let's move on to our second predictor of whether your job is vulnerable to AI. And the second predictor can be found in the tasks you do every day at work. Think about what you do when you go to work. Don't think about your job title, like whether you're a software engineer or a real estate agent, and don't think about your job outcomes like I build software or I sell homes. Think about what you actually spend time doing most days at work. What tasks do you perform? And is your work predictable and routine, or is it different every day? Determining whether your day-to-day work is predictable and routine is important because AI is a rock star at performing routine, predictable, computer-dependent jobs. When work involves repeating the same actions or decisions over and over and over again in similar situations, it's easy for a software engineer to train a computer into replicating those actions. And if a computer can do what you do every day, the chances are that the computer's going to do it better and faster than you can. And it can work longer hours. It doesn't need sleep, and it doesn't take vacations. So think about your daily tasks and ask yourself, do I follow clear procedures when I do my job? Can somebody write an instruction manual outlining the steps I take every day? Do I follow checklists when I do my work? Do I spend time sorting numbers or processing applications or reviewing data or just reading and summarizing documents? If you answer yes to any of those questions, the chances are that at least some of your work involves tasks that are routine and predictable, which means AI is headed your way. We're already seeing AI software taking over jobs that focus on data entry, invoice processing, payroll tasks, data analysis, scheduling meetings, writing summary reports. And that's because these are all tasks that follow predictable patterns. And when work can be broken down into well-defined tasks that look the same each time, it opens the door for AI automation. What you want is a job that changes day to day, where you have to be flexible and use judgment. Those types of tasks are really hard to automate because they just don't follow predictable patterns. Now, moving on to our third predictor of whether your job is vulnerable to AI, and that's whether you interact with people at work. When you're at work, how often are you in meetings? Do you ever speak with a customer? What types of conversations are you having with your coworkers or customers? Are you answering routine questions, or are you actively problem solving with them on different issues every day? These questions are important because jobs that require frequent, nuanced interactions with people are less vulnerable to AI because AI is just not very good at human communication. It doesn't have empathy. It doesn't have a contextual understanding of what's going on around the conversation. It can't read your body language or your voice tone to know whether you're angry or frustrated or excited. And AI doesn't have the ability to make judgments and negotiate solutions between conflicting points of view. So jobs like therapists, nurses, mediators, law enforcement, which all require sensitivity to subtle emotional cues, are much harder for AI to replicate. Even some of our more transactional human-facing jobs like sales or hospitality can be really hard for AI to replicate if you need to build a relationship or trust with the customer in order to get that sale. Right now, AI just can't match a human's ability to build relationships and trust. This is an area where software developers are working hard to improve AI's abilities, and we're seeing this with frontline customer service jobs. Companies are trying to figure out which human-facing jobs can be handled by AI, and they're focusing on areas where there's a high volume of repetitive, factual questions. Places like retail. Right now, we're seeing frontline customer service transitioning to hybrid systems where AI is handling the first communication with a customer to determine whether the customer has an easy request or wants quick factual information, all things that AI can handle quite well. If the customer is remotely complex or is emotionally charged, is frustrated, wants to talk to a manager, AI is then handing the request off to a human. Over time, we're going to see AI be able to handle incrementally more of these tasks, especially for jobs with high volume inquiries about routine matters. But for now, other than frontline customer service, the more your job depends on your ability to form a connection with someone, with a human, the lower the risk your job will be replaced by AI anytime soon. So our fourth and last predictor of whether your job is vulnerable to AI right now is the industry and company that you work in. And this is important because it's going to tell you when AI will show up at your workplace. Companies that are early AI adopters have three characteristics in common. First, they have a technology mindset and a strong digital infrastructure. Basically, they already have sophisticated company-wide IT systems. Having a well-developed IT architecture is important for AI implementation because it makes it much easier to add AI workflows. If the business you're working for is running its operations on Excel spreadsheets, Post-it notes, and coffee, it's going to take a while before they're ready to implement something as sophisticated as AI. But companies and industries that have already embraced digital tools have the business processes and that innovation culture among the workforce that's needed to implement large-scale AI projects quickly. The best examples are IT companies like Microsoft, Amazon, and Meta. AI has taken off in those companies very quickly because they have some of the most sophisticated technology infrastructures in the world, and their company DNA, it's focused on innovation and moving fast. In comparison, industries that rely on manual processes like construction companies, food companies, waste management companies, and some older manufacturing companies are going to be slower to adopt AI simply because their IT infrastructure and their workforce just aren't ready for it. The second characteristic of companies that are early AI adopters is that they have high-quality data about how the company operates. And this goes hand in hand with that well-developed IT architecture we just talked about. If a company has invested in a centralized IT system, that means they've already gone through the work of eliminating data silos and making sure they have quality data on how each part of the business operates. And this is important for AI implementation because artificial intelligence is only as good as the information you feed it. If your company has accurate, well-organized data sets, launching a successful AI project is much easier. That's why industries like IT, finance, and retail are among the first companies to roll out large-scale AI projects. Their data is already digitized and standardized, so they can move fast. Now, contrast that with businesses where the data is scattered in different silos within the company or where no one has documented how their jobs are performed. If you're in a company like that, you can probably think of a handful of people who are the only ones who know how to do a certain job, and if they left, the company may not be able to function. If you work for a company like this, management's going to have a tough time implementing large AI projects right away. They can do one-off projects. Lots of companies are experimenting with small projects. But implementing anything larger will be risky. So management's going to hesitate because they will be concerned about that any substantial investment in AI may not pay off for a while. So for now, you're going to see these smaller one-off AI projects pop up, but it's going to be some time before your company's ready to start departmental-wide or enterprise-wide AI projects. Now, the third and last characteristic of companies that are adopting AI early is that they have minimal regulatory requirements and trust barriers with customers. Think about it. Companies in industries like healthcare, aviation, the government are all going to approach AI very cautiously. Now, they will implement AI projects, but they're going to study them carefully before doing so because the stakes are really high if a mistake is made. Mistakes in those industries can have serious consequences for people's lives. So AI projects will happen. I just finished an episode talking about how ambient listening, artificial intelligence is being rolled out in healthcare. So it is coming and happening in regulated industries, but it will be slower than in other industries like IT and retail, where regulations and public trust are not quite as important. So to finish up, when you're trying to understand when AI is going to show up at your workplace, no, it's not just about whether AI can do your job, but also whether your organization is prepared to adjust to all the change and how much risk they're willing to take when making those changes. Knowing this will help you understand why AI integration looks very different across the job landscape and why it's going to continue to evolve very unevenly for quite some time. Thank you for joining me today. I would love to hear from you. Has AI showed up at your workplace? If it has showed up, is it a one-off project or is the company redoing a whole department? Let me know. And join me next time when we talk about how AI is changing jobs in another industry.